Penguin Random House Audio presents The Rules of Victory: How to Transform Chaos and Conflict. Strategies from The Art of War by James Gimian and Barry Boyce. Read for you by Mark Bramhall, with an introduction read by James Gimian.
Introduction. Every day events occur, both close at hand and around the world, that dramatically illustrate one of the greatest challenges human beings face: finding a better way to deal with conflict and chaos. Every disaster, man-made or natural, every social or political challenge, every effort to effect change in every aspect of our lives has these elements woven into it. And in most every situation, our failures leave us with the gnawing question: how could we have done that better? The Art of War by Sun Tzu has long been one of the world's primary resources for working with this challenge. It emerged as the training text for generals during the Warring States period of ancient China, and went on to become the most popular leadership and strategy manual of all time in both Asian and Western cultures. Many people view it as the property of military officers and business people, thinking that it's only about the logic of takeovers and one-upmanship, clever dealing, and surprising the enemy. But the text's insights have gained wider application. The lessons of this wisdom tradition are relevant wherever conflict arises, which, as we know, is pretty much everywhere human beings gather to live and work, from the battlefield to the conference room, from the church hall to the schoolyard, and even in the quiet of our homes. The text's popularity is due to the wide appeal of its central message, the oft-quoted proclamation that the leader's highest and best skill is to attain victory without battle. It then goes on to present profound methods to show how that victory, which we translate as taking whole, can be won. In this, the text speaks directly to the challenges faced by every person in a leadership position who has to work with resistance and conflict when trying to get something done. In every sphere of our lives, we face the challenge of bringing about a goal in a way that doesn't engender more conflict and chaos, thereby undermining our hard-earned accomplishment. The text's profound strategies show us the rules of victory, how to work with our world in a deeper way, to bring about victorious circumstances that render conflict unnecessary. The Art of War has gained broad acceptance as a strategy manual for the same reasons as most things that are adopted rapidly. First of all, it is relevant. The text speaks to our emerging worldview of interconnectedness and rapid change, of limited resources and the self-defeating effects of aggressive conquest. Next, it is effective. 2,500 years of use around the world confirms that it has worked for many people. Its advice to us won't change every time the latest research findings reverse their previous position. And finally, it is reasonably easy to adopt. Initially, only a slight shift in our view of the world is required for the text's practices to become helpful in our lives. We saw these qualities in the Art of War when we began studying it 30 years ago, brought to it by our frustration with ineffective approaches to working with conflict. Our study led to the publication of The Art of War, the Denma translation, in which we, along with our colleagues who formed the Denma translation group, offered a new translation of the text, accompanied by our own commentary and essays on the text's broad themes and perspectives. Our goal was to present an understanding of the text's view of the world and how to work with it as common human wisdom, accessible to all and connected to our times. Our edition spoke to all the text's users, military, business, academic, and beyond, and confirmed that this wisdom lineage was something all could participate in and learn from. The Denma translation has gained broad acceptance and an appreciative readership. We found that people are inspired by connecting to the text's wisdom and can understand its way of approaching the world. This success brought great enthusiasm and optimism, but it also brought more pointed questions about the text's practical application. The art of war is profound and rich, and places skillful action within a world that is an interconnected, whole, and complex system. The distance from the broad view to our daily lives can be great, however, and the journey to effective action can seem daunting. It became clear then that it would be helpful to have more guidance about how to get there from here. The Rules of Victory addresses the question that naturally arises next. How do we employ the skills of the art of war in our lives? If uncertainty, complexity, chaos, and conflict define the new reality, then by what means can we best prepare for working with it more effectively? This book seeks to address that next step, to help open up the profound practices in the text and render them accessible and effective. We do so in two ways. First, we deepen our understanding of the way the art of war views the world, and how effective methods and actions emerge from that view. Then we explore the text's famous strategies for working with the phenomenal world. The art of war's wisdom is not remote, mystical, or foreign, and we include a range of examples and scenarios to show how these practices are common in our experience. But if this is a text for military officers, how can this be so? How does a text that talks in terms of battle and victory, armies and enemies, also apply to me and my daily life? How can the language of war help to unravel the roots of conflict and overcome the habitual aggressive approach to getting things accomplished? It is our conviction that the principles in this text speak to everyone in a leadership position, which we define broadly as anyone who has an intention to carry out some action in his or her world. If that is so, what do all the various readers and potential users of the text's wisdom, from military leaders to business people, to the person on the street, to you in your life, have in common? Who is this text talking to? The art of war speaks to all people who accept leadership responsibility for what occurs in their world, who take action and seek change. Inevitably, taking such leadership will involve reaching a point in the campaign where others don't want to go along, where opinions, interests, and positions differ, and where dialogue and communication need to turn into action, and things tend to get messy. This experience happens to everyone with something to accomplish, and it so often leads to frustration with the habitual means of working with conflict. That includes the stay-at-home parent and the nonprofit volunteer coordinator, as well as the CEO and the military commander. Leaders can be broadly defined as those who take action when they do not want to leave things to chance. Leadership, then, involves employing strategic thinking. At its most basic level, strategic thinking is simply having a view of your goal, assessing the situation and the resources at your disposal, and then deciding how to apply these resources to achieve your goal. This happens more or less consciously in any leadership campaign. Whether you think of yourself as a strategist or not, once you reflect on what you want to achieve and assess the ways you might achieve it, once you consider the resources at your disposal and decide how to make use of them, Once you sense that there is a better...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?